At the heart of the Washington County Land Bill story is wilderness, and in order to fully appreciate the dynamics in play throughout the development of the bill, an understanding of what wilderness is exactly is imperative. Many of the West's most stunning landscapes are contained within wilderness areas, and while their beauty and grandeur are undebatable, their terms of use and access are not. Wilderness protection has long been a source of great contention among the users of public lands because those terms are so stringent and because the users have very different ideas about how the land should be used, managed, and shared. Wilderness designation is the highest level of protection that public lands can receive, severely limiting their use in an effort to keep the land wild and pristine. With the exception of foot trails, no visible human impact is acceptable, and only non-invasive activities like hiking, camping, skiing, horseback riding, and the like are permitted. No roads or OHV trails may traverse any part of the area, barring any kind of motorized or mechanized vehicles to operate within the space. I think it's safe to say that we all love our public lands in some way. We just have different ways of showing it, different ways of enjoying them, and different opinions on what their value might be. Some advocate for conservation and protection above all else, while others see value in the land's natural resource potential. Others still simply want the land to be available for recreational activity. Glen Canyon Dam is a great example of this struggle because to some, it is a magnificent achievement, but to others, it is a dismal and offensive scar that mars one of the most spectacular landscapes in the Southwest's Grand Circle. One thing is for sure, its completion in the early 1960s marked the end of the dam building era and sparked new fervor in the conservationist movement. The Wilderness Act, which established parameters for wilderness designations, was passed just 1 year later, and the years that followed would see a dramatic paradigm shift away from the exploitation of wild and open spaces, favoring instead their preservation and protection.
It goes back a lot further than just when we started the bill. In 1976, FLPMA was passed. That changed BLM from a government entity that dispersed the public lands to one that kept and controlled them and managed them. Wilderness was declared in the Forest Service prior to that time. There was a big resistance to wilderness because the management is really strict. You can't even ride a bicycle in it. No mechanized equipment at all. I mean, it's just locked up. The environmental community from that time started to try and get areas designated wilderness. BLM had to go out and do an inventory of all of their lands and designate what was wilderness. So they created wilderness study areas, and then they had to go back and refine those areas and determine what actually became wilderness.
It was controversial right off the bat, and part of it was because various interest groups wanted to use the wilderness process to accomplish other objectives. Wilderness, for wilderness' sake, wasn't always the driving force. It was to stop other things happening out there. The whole energy, the whole focus changed on roads and what they meant, and that became the issue, which basically blew up the whole wilderness process. Everybody fighting for or against, depending upon their point of view. Wilderness study areas had lasted so long that we never knew when the process was going to end, and so there was no finality to it. We had this temporary land restriction placed upon public lands, and so people felt denied the opportunity to use it, yet some of those wilderness areas had very little potential, they thought, for passage through Congress. So it was a matter of, let's find out how we can get right to the point where we can take something to Congress for wilderness.
Even prior to working for the congressman, understood some of the perspectives on the debate, everything from the off-road vehicle crowd who motorized access is very important and they want to know where they can go and don't want to be locked out of the land, to the environmental groups and their perspective of preservation, and we need more wilderness, not less, and need take the longer view of preserving the area rather than exploiting the resources and everything in between.